a former chief of staff. His first interview since the killing of his friend less than a week.
My friend was martyred for using his voice to engage in peaceful dialogue. Charlie's assassin thought that he could steal and silence his voice by putting a bullet in his neck.
Listen to, but Charlie built Turning Point USA to help fight for the youth of America, and he set out with nobody showing up to our events and ended with tens of thousands of telling you what to do, not asking you. And so the first time I met Charlie, I drove him and his then girlfriend Erika to the airport, and he grilled me on Aristotle, American history, Plato. And when I dropped him off at his terminal, he gets out of the car and goes, "I don't want you to go to college. I want you to come work for me."
Welcome, Mikey McCoy.
Just when you think this saga couldn't spiral any further into chaos, it does. And in the most explosive way possible, because right in the middle of a live broadcast with cameras rolling and millions watching, Charlie Kirk's own pastor dropped a truth bomb so unexpected, so unfiltered, that the entire internet went absolutely feral. One slip, one sentence, one moment he clearly wasn't supposed to say out loud. And suddenly, Erika Kirk and TPUSA's chief of staff,
Mikey McCoy, I had the unique honor.
Within minutes, social media went wild. The timelines were flooded with clips, screenshots, frame-by-frame analyses, and conspiracy threads popping up faster than the pastor could take a breath. Comment sections turned into full investigation labs where people would dissect every pause, every glance, and every tiny detail from a 15-second moment that had changed the story in an instant. Why did the pastor say that? Why did Mikey react this way? And why did Erika's name feature in the conversation the moment those words came out of his mouth? Was it an accident? Was that a cryptic hint, or was it the exact moment the polished TPUSA narrative started to crack wide open? Whatever it was, one thing became clear. Someone spoke a sentence that was never supposed to be spoken on national television tonight. We're breaking down every explosive second of it. Here is one thing I've learned watching scandals unfold in real time. The truth never enters the room quietly. It doesn't knock. It barges in, flips a table, and drags everyone into the spotlight, prepared or not. And this time, that truth walked in wearing a pastor's microphone, slipping right out of the mouth of the one man who was supposed to keep everything steady and spiritual. Instead, he lit a fuse. Pastor Rob McCoy didn't make just a small mistake on live television. He detonated a bombshell, and the moment those words left his mouth, the internet collectively knew something massive had been hiding beneath the surface. Because the second he casually mentioned that Mikey called him the minute Charlie was shot, asking for pastors to pray, everything in that studio changed. You could practically feel the air constrict. Because yeah, the sentence sounded emotional, dramatic, even holy. But the problem, according to the established timeline, it didn't match anything. It didn't line up. It did not fit the smooth, carefully crafted story TPUSA had been pushing for weeks. And nothing motivates the internet faster than a sentence that isn't supposed to exist. They slowed it down. They filtered the audio, they compared it to the official timeline, and suddenly this scandal had a brand new center of gravity. Because Pastor Rob didn't say Mikey heard about it. He didn't say someone told him. He said Mikey called him immediately, covered in blood, giving directions. And for those viewers who had already analyzed the CCTV footage, the one showing Mikey calmly plugging his ears, turning away, and walking off before most people knew what was going on. That was no small contradiction. It was huge. It was suspicious. It was the kind of narrative break that turns a quiet controversy into a full-blown public investigation powered by millions of amateur detectives with phones and editing apps. By midnight, threads were pinned across every platform comparing the pastor's story with the official sequence of events. People analyzed it second by second. When was Charlie shot? Who made the first move? Who responded? Who didn't? Why did Mikey walk away instead of helping? Why was his phone already at his ear? If he was calling his father like he said, why was his face so calm? Why were his footsteps so regular? Why didn't he turn back, not once even, to check whether Charlie was alive? Every frame became potential evidence. Every shadow became a clue. Every micro-expression had become fuel for a theory. Some said that he looked rehearsed, others described him as detached. Some believed he was following instructions, others insisted he was in shock. But almost no one believed that he was covered in blood because the footage showed the opposite. He was cleaner than the pastors kneeling beside the body. While the internet was in an uproar with Mikey's behavior, another name came to the fore, Erika Kirk. Not because she posted anything, not because she made any statement, she barely said a word, but because the pastor's slip connected directly and accidentally to her timeline. If Mikey had called somebody right away, why did the New York Times report that the call went to Erika at the very minute Charlie was shot? Why did she claim she already knew what he was going to say? Why did her version of events line up perfectly with a moment that shouldn't have aligned with anything at all? These weren't accusations. They weren't conclusions. They were just questions. Questions that multiplied, twisted, spread, and flooded the internet faster than TPUSA's PR team could push out another perfectly polished statement. This is where the energy of the entire story changed. Erika wasn't just a grieving widow anymore. She became a character, a symbol, a puzzle piece. The internet couldn't fit into the picture no matter how hard they tried. Her public grief was soft, poetic, almost cinematic, Bible verses, gentle pauses, folded hands, curated sadness. Since Pastor Rob's slip went viral, though, all that softness suddenly felt manufactured, too smooth, too ready for the camera, too controlled. Old clips of Erika resurfaced, and people watched with new eyes. What once looked like strength looked now like performance. What once felt like pain looked now practiced. And the more viewers watched her speak, smile, pose, or brush away a tear that never seemed to fall, the more something felt off. Not provably off. Not factually off. Emotionally off. And online, emotional suspicion spreads faster than any documented truth ever could. People began stitching together comparison videos. Erika at the memorial versus Erika on stage at political events. One version looked somber, the other looked powerful, one vulnerable, the other polished, and the questions poured in. Why did she accept the role of CEO so quickly? And why was she so confident standing beside J.D. Vance? Why did her speeches sound scripted, the product of brand messaging rather than raw grief? Why did every emotional moment look like a slow-motion close-up, instead of a real reaction? And at the same time as the internet was ripping Erika's emotional tone to shreds, Pastor Rob was adding gasoline to the fire involuntarily. Because he didn't slip once, he slipped again and again. Each time he retold the story, the phone call, the blood, Mikey directing the scene, it contradicted the footage even more. And viewers couldn't help but wonder, was he repeating something he'd been told? Something he assumed, something he believed, or something he thought he was supposed to say? And the tension inside that studio said it all. Co-hosts staring down at their notes, producers frantically signaling off. Camera, subtle panic rising in the room, like everyone realized at the same moment, the pastor had stepped into territory. Nobody wanted to broadcast to millions. The internet wouldn't let the moment fade. They looped it, slowed it, captioned it, dissected it. What should have been a solemn moment of prayer turned into a moment of exposure. Not factual exposure, not legal exposure, but emotional exposure, narrative exposure, and online. Emotional contradictions echo louder than any official statement. The scandal reignited within hours. Not because of new evidence, not because of leaks, but because of timing, because of inconsistencies, because of how Mikey walked off stage, like someone who already knew the story was bigger than anyone understood. Because Erika's silence suddenly felt strategic instead of sacred. Because Pastor Rob's words felt too heavy, too revealing, too careless for someone surrounded by tragedy. Every ounce of that tension pulled the audience deeper, deeper into connections, deeper into theories, deeper into a mystery they weren't supposed to notice, but now couldn't stop unraveling. This is where the second layer of the story started to form. Not through new footage or revelations, but through connections the internet was never meant to make. Because once people believe a mystery exists, every pause becomes a clue. Every coincidence becomes a breadcrumb. Every silence becomes a confession. And the silence around Erika and Mikey, it wasn't quiet anymore. It was deafening. The people weren't just questioning what had happened. They questioned why the people closest to the center hadn't said anything real at all. And the deeper viewers dug, the less clarity they found. But the more patterns they saw, someone uploaded a slowed-down version of Mikey walking away from the tent. In the frame, he raises his phone to his ear before the screams have even reached full panic. Viewers circled the moment, added dramatic music, compared his reaction to bystanders who instinctively ducked and flinched, and the comments just kept coming. Why is he so composed? Why is he already on a call? Who answers a phone call at a time like that? That is what everyone kept asking until a new theory surfaced. A theory so simple but so disruptive, it flipped the whole narrative upside down. He is not calling, he is being summoned. One sentence, one shift in perspective, and everything that people thought they understood suddenly collapsed, like someone yanking the tablecloth out from under the whole storyline. Because if Mikey was being called at that exact moment, the next question wasn't optional. It was inevitable. By who? And the internet latched onto that question like a dog tearing through a couch cushion. Within hours, screenshots resurfaced from the New York Times showing timestamps that lined up too cleanly to ignore. Then came Erika's line. I knew before he said them. People replayed it. Like detectives decoding a riddle, how would she know? How could anyone know words which had not been spoken yet? That little gap, those missing handful of seconds, became the foundation of every theory sprouting across TikTok, X, Reddit, YouTube, even random Facebook groups normally reserved for casserole recipes and high school football arguments. Commentary creators who typically covered cheating scandals and reality television drama were suddenly reinventing themselves as political crime analysts, timelines, maps, digital whiteboards, arrows, voiceovers, like they were auditioning to narrate a Netflix special. And the messiest part, each creator had a completely different theory. One said Mikey was calling to warn someone. Another claimed Erika already knew before the news broke. Another insisted Pastor Rob's words hinted at plans already in motion. Then the darkest theory of all started trending. Someone knew before the shot. Nobody said it was fact. Nobody proved anything. But the theory spread because it felt cinematic, shocking, emotionally charged, the kind of storyline people refused to click away from. And Erika's silence only poured gasoline on the fire. She didn't go live. She didn't release a statement. She didn't clear the air. She continued to post soft, polished content, Bible verses, faith quotes, gentle smiles, carefully posed photos. But now people weren't seeing elegance, but choreography, curation. A person too perfectly composed for a woman living through tragedy. Then a resurfaced clip detonated across social media, a moment where Erika hugged J.D. Vance, her hand brushing through his hair for a split second too long. When it first aired, nobody had blinked. But now, context had transformed that innocent moment into fuel for suspicion. People slowed the hug down frame by frame. Some said it looked intimate. Some said it looked rehearsed. Some said that it was like two people who had practiced this moment, as someone commented. He looks guilty, another said. She looks strategic. But the comment that went viral across every platform said, that is not how a grieving widow hugs a senator. And suddenly JD's wife, Usha, who all this while had kept silent through the political circus surrounding her husband, was being dragged into the narrative years. Old interviews of her were being dug up and dissected. Every shift of tone, every smile, and every restrained expression. Then, the rumor dropped. Dusha unfollowed Erika. It wasn't true. It didn't have to be. Rumors don't need truth. They require friction. This story was generating friction by the hour. As the speculation boiled over, a new layer emerged. Old footage of Pastor Rob attending TPUSA events with Erika and Mikey. To anyone who had seen them in that original context, the three came off as a single cohesive unit of leadership. Cut into this conspiracy narrative, however, it looked synchronized, coordinated, almost scripted. Known commenter wrote, "It is giving PR family more than spiritual family." The line gained traction because people already felt uneasy about the ease with which TPUSA changed leadership after Charlie's death. When Erika stepped into the CEO role a mere 8 days after losing her husband, the internet didn't see stability. They saw ambition. They saw strategy. They saw someone stepping into power faster than grief would normally allow. Then came the viral compilation entitled, "Was This Planned?" It stitched together the hug, the memorial footage, the leadership transition, and Pastor Rob's slip, all in one timeline. And the internet didn't watch this quietly. They devoured it, because the story had now turned from tragedy to mystery, from coincidence to coordination, from unanswered questions to a narrative nobody was supposed to piece together. The audience wasn't just watching anymore. It was stepping into the investigation itself. Comment sections transformed into discussion boards. Threads began to resemble case files. Short edits looked like evidence pinned to a digital corkboard, and the deeper people dug, the more bizarre the timeline became. Then came the rumor that sparked the next wave, the so-called Dropbox leak. A journalist claimed there was a clip, never released publicly, showing Mikey placing a call moments before the shooting. The clip didn't matter, its existence didn't matter, only the claim mattered, and the claim spread like wildfire. People began to wonder, if it wasn't true, why hasn't FUSA directly denied it? Another said, why is everybody going around the rumor without directly facing the rumor? Suddenly, the lack of answers was the answer. Silence became suspicion. Erika's calmness felt strategic. Mikey's disappearance from social media seemed intentional. Pastor Rob's confidence began to look. Practiced proof didn't fuel the story anymore. Momentum did. That momentum surged again when viewers revisited the funeral. The lighting, the dramatic music, the stage setup. It felt less like mourning and more like a political rally. People wondered, why did Erika look composed and not broken? Why did her voice stay steady when most would crumble? Why did the moment feel branded, not grieving? Clips of her crying without tears became digital currency. Someone zoomed in on a dry tissue. Another person posted, "This feels like PR grief." And suddenly, people weren't reacting to Erika anymore. They were reacting to their perception of her. Theories multiplied, timelines stretched, rumors evolved. Every silence grew louder. Every clip took on new meaning. But one thing became clear, nothing fit neatly. Each answer spawned another question. It is not about what happened anymore. It is about what feels like happened. And once the narrative shifted from fact to feeling, nothing could stop what came next. Because when a story stops relying on evidence and starts feeding on emotion, it becomes something else. Something bigger than the people in it, bigger than the footage, bigger than the truth itself. It becomes a kind of collective obsession. By this point, that's exactly what the Erika TPUSA saga had turned into. People weren't looking for answers anymore. What they were seeking was confirmation of theories they already believed in. And that was when the spiral started faster and more chaotic than anyone had expected. Even the creators who had been fueling the drama couldn't predict what happened next. A commentary creator posted the video titled, "Look at the pattern. No new evidence. Nothing new, just a montage of the same clips viewers had seen 100 times. Reactions, glances, pauses, emotional inconsistencies. But packaged with eerie music and slow zooms. Those familiar moments suddenly looked like revelations. Erika looks down during an interview. Mikey looking over his shoulder during an old live stream. Pastor Rob, stalling before finishing a sentence. Individually, none of it meant anything. Grouped together, it felt like a hidden message, a story about people who seemed to hold something back. A group which seemed too polished, too synchronized, too composed for having just experienced a tragedy. That is when a new catchphrase ruled the discussion: emotional choreography. They said on, screen reactions appeared contrived, rather than natural. They pointed out how Erika's tone remained perfectly even, how Mikey avoided eye contact at emotional peaks, how Pastor Rob only stumbled when his back was against the wall. And the question shifted once more, not what happened, but why does everything feel so unnatural? One comment captured this mood perfectly. When humans act too perfect after chaos, it means they practiced. The debate exploded even further. One viewer wrote, "Real grief is messy. This looks like a press tour." But supporters pushed back, saying that grief looks different for everyone. But that only fanned the flames. Every disagreement made the storyline bigger. Then came wave 2 of resurfaced clips, moments from before Charlie's passing that suddenly looked suspicious, simply because viewers were watching with a new narrative in mind. One clip showed Mikey standing behind Charlie on stage, repeatedly checking his phone. In real life, no one would have noticed, but now that clip had millions of views with captions like, "Why was he always on his phone?" Another video of Erika and Pastor Rob greeting each other at a conference resurfaced, an ordinary, polite moment. But someone posted it amidst the boiling theories online with a new caption. "This hug hits different now." And it did. Not because of what the clip showed, but because of what people had collectively decided it meant. Then the rumor mill shifted gears. People weren't just speculating about Mikey's reaction or Erika's silence anymore. They were dissecting the inner structure of TPUSA itself. Some viewers surmised that the organization had underlying tension long before the tragedy. No evidence, no documents, just timing, vibes, and the internet's hunger for patterns. Someone commented, "The transition of leadership was too smooth," another added. "If this was sudden, we'd see chaos. Instead, it looked coordinated." These weren't accusations, but interpretations. But interpretations repeated often enough become explanations in the minds of those who read them. Meanwhile, Erika's presence online only heightened things, not appeased them. Her serene, curated posts, normally harmless, became symbolic. People zoomed in on her lighting, her posture, her background decor. They analyzed her smile, her voice, even the placement of her hands. Someone wrote, "Why does everything she posts look designed to soothe people?" Another responded, "Because she is the emotional shield of the movement." These interpretations weren't based on any facts. They were based on emotion, expectation, and atmosphere. At the same time, Mikey's complete silence online added another layer. No posts, no comments, no live streams. His digital absence became a story unto itself. He is hiding. He's grieving privately. He's been told. The internet was now treating it like a secret message. Viewers rewound it, cropped in, and added text overlays, like, "Why flinch here?" The clip instantly blew up. Some said stress. Some said emotional overload. Others whispered guilt. The truth didn't matter. The interpretations created engagement, and engagement was oxygen. But the biggest twist yet came from a vague claim. Someone said that a staffer from a conservative media outlet had hinted that private discussions were happening behind closed doors. No names, no details, no sources, and yet, it made no difference. The internet heard private conversations and turned it into a whole subplot. Some said it proved internal tension, others said it meant nothing. But the debate kept the story blazing, hotter than ever. Viewers turned back to older speeches by Charlie, in search of new meaning, lines about pressure, criticism, hate, spiritual warfare. Suddenly they were treated as warnings. A comment with 80,000 likes read, "He was trying to tell us something." The audience welcomed these gestural reinterpretations as revelations, even though nothing new had surfaced. Then came the video that hit the internet like a punch to the chest. A creator said, "Sometimes stories don't go viral because they are true. They go viral because they feel unresolved." That sentence nailed the heart of the chaos. The story didn't feel explained. It didn't feel settled. It felt suspended, caught between logic and myth, truth and theory, tragedy and suspicion. And that unresolved feeling made people cling to every rumor, every clip, and every comment like it was the missing key. By this point, viewers didn't care about official reports. They did not care about statements from TPUSA. They didn't care about future interviews from Erika or Mikey. They cared about the energy, mystery, tension, the vibes, and the unknown. And this saga was like a long corridor lined with locked doors, and humans cannot resist a locked door. And that is when the final shift began. By this time, the discussion was no longer about Charlie. It wasn't about evidence or theology or politics or leadership anymore. It had become something bigger, about perception itself. How tragedy morphs into narrative. How silence becomes suspicion. How timing becomes theory. And how the internet becomes its own investigating body, moving on with no need for the truth. And eventually, everyone came to the same realization. This story wasn't going to fade. It wasn't going to resolve itself. It wasn't going to explain itself. Because the internet doesn't wait for truth, it creates its own. The internet, for this saga, had constructed an entire universe, a world where one look could be a signal, a pause can conceal a secret. Silence could imply guilt, and every minor detail might count more than it ever did. And maybe that is the real twist no one expected. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a mirror to how fast a story can change when millions of people interpret the same moment differently. How narratives build themselves, how emotions outrun facts, and how a single slip on live television can shift options and speculation. One thing is crystal clear. This story isn't ending. Not based on evidence, not because of statements or timelines, not due to official reports either. It isn't ending because people don't want it to end. They're invested. They've taken sides. They have developed theories and linked dots that may not even belong together. Once a story reaches that point, it ceases to be a headline. It becomes a living, breathing ecosystem, growing, mutating, and adapting to every new detail, real or imagined. And now the question returns to you. What do you see in all of this? Which clip caught your attention? Which detail seemed wrong? Which moment made you raise that silent eyebrow the internet is famous for? Coincidence, do you think? Layers of timing and emotion folded together into confusion? Or do you think that beneath these apparent changes, something deeper is hiding and waits for the right moment to come out? Because if there is one thing we've learned from watching scandals unfold online, it is this. The truth isn't always the loudest voice. Sometimes, the loudest voice is the confusion itself. Drop your thoughts below, your theory, your angle, your gut feeling. Thousands of people are waiting to read what you think. And if you want to stay ahead of the next twist, which is sure to happen, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications. Here on Star Pulse USA, the story doesn't stop when the video ends. In fact, this story isn't ending. It is just the beginning.